Hi, welcome back to Academic Market Insights. I'm Dr. Russell Rhodes, joined by Dr. Larissa Adamiec. We are going to continue embarking on our series on option education with video number 2, talking about option moneyness. Now, before we get into that, we have to do the obligatory YouTube stuff. If you like the work that we've been doing, if you like this video, you can wait till the end to decide if you like it. Hit the like button for us. And if you would like to be kept up on the various videos that we're putting up, some related to what's going on in the market in real time relative to what we talk about in the classroom, and some of them which are a little bit longer form and talk about really how we straightforward teach things in the classroom, like this video here. Please subscribe to our channel. So with all of that, I'm going to hand things off to Dr. Adamiec, and she is going to talk to us about option moneyness.
Yeah, and just so everybody's aware, there is a little jar of money
There is money.
right behind me. It's teeny tiny. Um, but pointing it out because we all like money and we all like to think about money. And when we think about options in moneyness, we're not thinking about the cash on the top of our dresser. We're thinking about things like, does this option have value? And that's really where moneyness comes in. So with that, let's start. Okay. And we're going to talk about moneyness. And to me, I'm excited about this because in a graduate level class, this entire presentation would probably be one slide. And we would spend about 2 to 3 minutes on it. But it's really a fundamental of understanding how options work. In my undergraduate classes, I would probably spend 2 or 3 slides on it, and I would um, really try to pound in what it means to be in the money, what the actual value is. And we talk about this because we're going to be thinking about the intrinsic value, but there's also an extrinsic value, which is the time value of money. This is the true driver of why we need to really understand moneyness, because that time value has value. And as we get closer and closer to maturity, that time value is going to slow down. So it's going to be called what's time decay. And that's something we should be thinking about. And that's why we think so deeply about these things. And if you're not accustomed to the math that goes into moneyness, it's important to really understand and take the time. And I do let my students know, I said, it looks really easy when I do it. A little more challenging when you go to do it yourself. So that's why we're going to take the time to really step through what we're doing. Okay. So let's talk about moneyness. There are 3 different ways: in the money, at the money, and out of the money. And I'm going to throw a question at Dr. Rowe. Which of these means that the option has value or intrinsic value?
In the money.
Woohoo!
In the money.
10.
And yeah, in the money. And I so part of my background was working in education at one of the exchanges. And when you have a job like that, you actually can influence terminology. And I was also on a committee with educators from all the option exchanges. And I tried really, really hard to get everybody to start using the phrase economic value for an in the money option. And I'm going to leave that right there. But when you're talking a bit more about in the money and intrinsic value, I think the reason that I think that's a better phrase, or that never caught on, that it makes an awful lot of sense.
It does. It
Yeah.
really, and especially because, so the next question is going to ask you, but I
Oh,
think that
sorry.
ties into it is, can an at the money or out of the money before expiration have value?
Absolutely.
Yes. And
And
that's
that's
again, I feel like that's an important distinction to make
mhm.
here, that when we talk about it, whether or not it has value, we're really typically talking about at expiration. But
Exactly.
before expiration, there is time value. And because markets fluctuate, there's this probability that the underlying price is going to change, which means the value of the option is going to change. And the more time we have, the more probability or the more ability the changes can occur. So that time value has genuine value because of that probability or that ability for the change and fluctuation in prices. Right. Okay, so let's take a deeper look into it. We're going to be looking at call options. And the value or the intrinsic or economic value of a call option is going to be the max of the stock price minus the strike or zero. So this creates a mathematical boundary for how much you could actually, the true value. So this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with profit and loss. This just really is that boundary of the value of the option at expiration. Okay. So if the value is greater than at zero, it's going to have it's going to be considered in the money. So let me grab my pen because I think this is important to highlight. And I want to make an argument to you that this entire area is in the money, ITM. Okay, so my concern here, grab a different color. My concern here, and I'm going to put you back on the spot, Dr. Rowe, is this little teeny tiny corner right here. So we know that this is our break-even point, and we discussed this in detail in session 1. So we have our break-even point, and we're in the money, but we still have, because remember, this is our profits and this is our loss, we still have a bit of a loss. So Dr. Rowe, can you give us a little more enlightenment of what's happening in this teeny tiny triangle?
Well, and this, there's certain things that folks miss on derivative exams, and that area being in the money can be confusing to folks. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at the option at value at expiration, and relative to what we paid for the option contract. And in the red triangle there, the value of the option is less than what we paid for the option. You've got a 30 strike option here. Let's just say that we paid $5 for that option. If the stock's at 32, the option's worth only $2. So we paid $5 for something that's worth $2. It's $2 in the money, but it's not in the money to an extent to cover our cost. So we have a partial loss on that trade if we held it to expiration.
Is the partial loss, and this isn't a question we had discussed ahead of time, but I'm going to throw it out there. Is that partial loss something that a lot of new traders experience? Is that something that frequently, I guess, occurs?
I think the partial loss is, especially with new option traders that start out buying options. Options, when you purchase an option, there's a time value component to it, and you have to overcome that time value component to just break even. So, this option, let's just say that the stock was at 32 when the option was purchased for $5. Well, you've got to make $3 just to break even. So it's pretty common that new traders may buy a call option and the stock moves in the correct direction for them, but it doesn't move enough to cover the premium, and they end up with a partial loss on the trade. So yeah, that's a very common occurrence. And in fact, we did a video on my first option trade, and I think the thing that both of our trades had in common was you were selling an option, so you didn't have to overcome time value.
Right. No, and quite the opposite. When you sell an option, you're actually gaining that time value every day.
Mhm. Yep.
So let's look at a small example. Let's say the stock is, and thank you for that. Sorry.
Oh,
Thank you
no
very
problem.
much for that explanation. The stock is trading at $50. We have a strike price of 30. So this becomes in the max of the stock minus the strike or zero, or the max of 50 minus 30 or zero, or in the max of 20 or zero, and 20 is greater than zero. So we're going to have 20. So this option would be considered in the money. And again, it takes a while if you're very new to options to really get comfortable with that. I encourage particularly my undergraduate students to step through all of those steps until it just becomes second nature. So you're just very comfortable and can jump to the end. Okay, let's look at puts. So a put value is going to be the opposite. So this will be the max of the strike minus the stock or zero. So remember last session, we talked about the P&L diagram, and we're really starting to make money when the asset value declines in value. So this becomes in the money when the put is greater than zero. So let's throw a couple of things up here. Profit loss. I'm going to pop up our strike price. And I'm going to make the argument to you that this entire area, again, is going to be considered in the money. So we have then something very similar that's going to happen because we have our break even. And again, our break even is going to be that difference of the strike price minus what we paid for the option. And we're going to have this triangle again. So, Dr. Rowe, I'm going to put you back on the spot to talk about this little triangle. And
Sure.
I think this is such an important discussion that we're having because in most academic textbooks, this is something that's completely skipped over and missed.
Yeah, the the partial loss from purchasing that option is what appears in there. Remember, when you purchase a put option, you are acquiring the right to sell the stock at a certain price. And in this case, we've got the right to sell the stock at $50. We paid for that right. So for instance, if we paid $5 for the right to sell a stock at 50, effectively we are if we exercise that right, we're selling the stock at 45.
Right.
If the stock happens to be at 48, that's exercising our right to sell the stock at 50. We would still make $2 off our exercising at 50, selling at 50 when the stock's down at 48. But if we paid $5 for that right, we'd end up with a loss of $3. So what's happening in there? You've got an option that has value. It doesn't have as much value as you paid for it. And another common question, common mistake I see from students when we start talking about this is they think you shouldn't exercise that option, even though it has value, because it doesn't have enough value to cover what they paid for it. But if you choose not to exercise the right to sell at 50 when the stock's at 48, and you had paid $5 for that, you basically have given up $2 of value, and now your loss is going to be $5. So even if the option is in the money, and it has some value at expiration, but it's not as much as you paid for it, you really should still go through the exercise process and offset some of that cost.
Good. No, I'm glad you brought that up because, again, it's just one of those you don't really think about the mechanics of what's going to happen with the trade. And those are important mechanics to really think about.
I mean, one of the reasons that we're doing what we're doing right now is because the general textbooks are very math heavy. and
Mhm.
not necessarily what happens heavy, or how you would handle this partial profit situation. So
Right.
that's exactly what we're doing here.
And it's an important
Yeah,
part of
it's
it.
very important.
Yep. So let's look at a quick example. Let's say the stock is trading at 30, but we have the right to sell at 50. So the ability to sell at 50 compared to the ability to sell at 30, well, that has value. So this becomes the max of the strike minus the stock, or zero, which in this case is the max of the strike of 50 minus the stock of 30, or zero, which is the max of 50 minus 30, or zero. The max is 20, or zero. And we're saying that 20 is greater than zero, so this option would be valued at 20 and would be considered in the money. At the money. So this is, again, what's really important, I'm going to highlight this, is that our call value is, whether it's in the money, at the money, or out of the money, this equation doesn't change. It is still the max of the stock minus the strike, or zero. And this time, we're now going to say that the stock and the strike are really equal to each other. So we've got our profit loss, this corner piece where we have it change, this is going to be considered at the money. It is not our break-even point. It is right where we have that inflection point. So it changes from no value to some value. Okay. I do want to ask Dr. Rowe a little bit
Mhm.
about how do traders really think about what it means to be at the money. So
So
academically
mm,
speaking, and we have our example right here that everybody can see, stock is at 50, the strike is at 50, they're equal, therefore at the money. But most of the prices can't line up perfectly. And
no.
if you listen to commentary about the option markets, everybody talks about what it means to be at the money. Well, again, if we've got a stock trading at, I don't know, $48.23, there's not going to be a call strike with $48.23. So how do traders talk about what it means to be at the money?
Well, in trader speak, the in academically, the stock price is 50, the strike price is 50, they're equal. That's academic at the money. You got my buddy John Nigerian on Fox Business talking about options, and maybe he says he thinks a stock is going to continue much higher, and he wants to aggressively get a long position. And I'm looking at the at the money options. Well, if the stock's trading at 49.80, the at the money option contract is going to be the 50 strike call. And that's going to be the strike that is closest to where the market is trading right now. Now, that is not academically correct. If that were on a test, that would be that would be slightly out of the money call, because the stock was a little bit lower than where the strike was, just a little bit to the left of your red line there. But in trader speak, that we refer to the at the money option contract as being the contract that has a strike price that's closest to the underlying. And those options tend to have the most time value. So they're actually more attractive for sellers than buyers.
So I also wanted to throw up another question. So you said in your example, was it, I don't know if you said 49.80, but I'm going to pretend you said 48.80, and then you went with a
Okay,
50.
48.80. Yeah,
Um, why wouldn't there necessarily be a 49 strike?
there would be.
Okay.
There would be. There's dollar strike increments. So yeah, 49.80 would be right there. 48.80 would be 40 would be the strike
Good.
price would be 49. Just about any actively traded option market, and uh, of all the stocks out there that have options, 80% of the volume is concentrated in just 50 stocks.
Okay.
And those are the only ones that I honestly pay attention to. And they tend to have strike prices, especially for stocks that are under $100. they'll have strike prices in $1 increments.
Okay.
So it's real easy to find an option that's pretty close to at the money. It also means that there is a 1 in 100, or there's a 99 in 100 chance that there's not an academic at the money option at any time.
Sure.
There's a math joke that you and I and maybe nobody else got.
I really enjoyed that.
So,
so the less active traded options are going to have the bigger gaps in their
they're
strike.
going to have wider strike prices.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, if you're a new trader and you're looking into getting into trading options, perhaps having a more liquid underlying is more valuable so that you can have that granularity as you're looking at what strike price to purchase or to sell.
Absolutely. And then also just one last little thing. So when you start talking about stocks that have very high prices, like I pulled up Meta, which is Facebook, on a different screen. That stock's trading at $712 as we sit here. The strike prices are in $5 increments,
okay,
as opposed to a $10 increments.
And do we always round up?
Not necessarily. Actually, I will have if we were at 49.23, we would round down to the 49s. I test systematic strategies. And that I will apply the at the money option, and I pick the strike price that's closest. In the unusual instance that the stock is trading right at like $50.50, I will look at the previous price, the most recent price that's not 50.50. If it's higher, then I go up to 51. If it's lower, I go down to 50. So that's a personal preference thing.
Well, and since we're kind of diving a little deeper in at the money options, again, in a academic class, this would be a one sentence thing.
Yeah.
What happens if for some reason how do I want to say this? What happens if at expiration, the option does finish at the money? So and correct me if I'm wrong, but if the option finishes in the money, your brokerage account will automatically execute an exercise for you.
Exactly.
So you can't make a mistake where you're leaving, in our previous example, you're not leaving those $2 on the table, so to speak. Your brokerage firm will take care of that for you. But what happens if it's exactly at the money?
Exactly at the money. If you own the option, you would actually have the choice to exercise it if you wanted to. There's no real advantage in doing that because you could just go buy the stock in the marketplace at the same price. And actually, without getting too technical, it's cheaper to go buy the stock in the marketplace than exercise the option. There's some extra charges associated with exercising an option. It wouldn't automatically happen for you. You'd actually have to call your brokerage firm and have them do it on your behalf. The level of in the money that gets executed automatically on your behalf is 1 penny. That number used to be higher. They used to not automatically exercise unless you had at least like 25 cents of value, but they brought that number down over time. So that would be done automatically on your, if the stock price is higher than a call strike and you own the call, they're going to exercise on your behalf. If the stock price is lower than a put strike and you own that put option, they are going to sell the stock on your behalf. And in both cases, they're going to execute the stock at the strike price.
Okay. Excellent. Again, things that really don't come up in the classroom.
No, sometimes we'll get questions like that, but not really.
And it's usually those students who have started trading on their own.
They kind of know that answer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's always fun. So at the money put options, same thing. This is going to be when the strike and the stock are exactly the same. And again, it's the inflection point. It is not the break even, it's the actual inflection point that this happens. So very similar to the call, I would assume that when we're talking about an at the money strike in trader speak, it'll be the one that's closest to it as opposed to the exact. And again, if in this example, if we're looking at it and we've got a stack at 50 and a strike at 50, this would be the max of the strike minus the stock or zero, or the max of 50 minus 50 or zero, and it'd be the max of zero or zero. So this would be just at the money. And finally, we're going to be looking at our out of the money options. So this one, PL, we're going to do our strike. And I'm going to make the argument to you, Dr. Rowe, that this entire region is out of the money. And you'll notice for our call option, it's the same value. So we're not really looking at that changes that we have that's in the money. So we can be far out of the money or far into the money where we've got quite a bit of profit that we're taking. It's different than that one small spot where we're at the money. We're going to have a consistent zero value because of that natural boundary that it is generated from options. So this is saying that if the money is less than zero, it should actually read less than or equal to zero. Because if we look at this, again, our call value is the max of the stock minus the strike or zero. In our example, we're saying the stock is trading at 30 and the strike is 50. So this becomes the max of the stock minus 50 or zero, max of negative 20 or zero. And I'd rather be at zero than negative 20. So this becomes a value of zero. And this is out of the money.
So, at expiration, this option, I'm getting ready to ask you a question, and I'm curveballing you here, but you know that I've worked on a study with taking a look at the largest opening block option trade every day over 2 years. Guess what percentage of those block trades, and some are buys and some are sells, but guess what percentage of those block trades were out of the money options when they were entered, not at expiration, when they were entered.
Entered?
Yes. And these are institutions.
Yeah, I was gonna say my intuition, not institution, my intuition would say that this would actually be very high.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and my thought is it's for insurance product purposes.
Yep.
My thought is you're anticipating a large market move, and out of the money options are cheaper. So there's that aspect of it.
So I'm trying to do math here. There are 498 trading days in the study that I did. 408 of them involved out of the money options.
I was going to guess 80%.
Yeah, it's right. It's very close to 80%.
Yeah.
It's very, very close to 80%. And it really is just a matter. One of the speculative uses of options is for leverage purposes. So purchasers may be looking at out of the money options because the premiums are cheaper. And then when you're doing short option strategies, those most definitely tend to lend themselves to out of the money because you want the option to expire with no value.
Yeah.
But
that's excellent.
Even though, when we talk about out of the money options here, and it just looks like something you wouldn't want to touch at expiration, well, they're the more attractive type of options when you're setting up a trade.
And they're also, again, when you start to think about insurance,
which is a main institutional use of options.
Okay. Similar, our put options. We're going to be out of the money. Now we're going to be on the other side. So strike. And we're out of the money over here. Versus we're out of the money on this side. opposite side. Again, our value doesn't change, so it is the max of the strike minus the stock or zero. And again, this should read not less than zero, but it should be less than or equal to zero. Because if we're looking at a strike of 30 and the stock is trading at 50, this becomes the max of 30 minus 50 or zero. And then it becomes negative 20 or zero or zero. So this, in this example, this option would be out of the money. Okay.
At the most you can lose when you buy an option is what you paid for it.
Which is one
And
of the reasons why
one
options
a big, yeah, a big,
big benefits.
yeah.
Yes, the gentleman I worked for at Peak Six, Joe Taracolo, made the comment that nobody should be trading equities. You can't put that out there.
What was the name of that firm?
Peak Six?
Oh, I thought they had the name options in the name. Oh, well. But that's what you guys did. You were primarily an option trading firm. That's why he made that argument. So I'm not discounting the argument. I'm just saying, it's kind of like me. I worked at SIBO. I think VIX is the best thing in the world. Yeah. So, and I don't disagree with that statement.
Well, and it's like, and one of his arguments is, this boundary that is created. You've got leverage, you've got boundaries. If you think the stock is going to go up, and you want to just get into a call option as opposed to buying the stock outright. There's lots of different unique things that options bring to the table that could be considered better than an equity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so our intrinsic value, our calls, and our puts. Let's talk a little bit about intrinsic value or economic value. Again, this is almost like a recap of everything we just did for our in the money, at the money, and out of the money. So in the value for our call option, no matter where the moneyness is going to be the max of the stock minus the strike. So and I wish I had done this a little bit better with some transitions, but I'm going to put you on the spot, Dr. Rowe, and I'm going to fix it for you. I'm going to say, Dr. Rowe, if the stock is trading at 23 and the strike is trading at 23 and it is a call option, is this option in the money, out of the money, or at the money?
At the money.
Ding, 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 ding. And that is because the stock and the strike are equal to each other. Dr. Rowe, if the stock is trading at 45 and the strike is 40 and we've got a call option, is this in the money, out of the money, or at the money?
That would be in the money. You got $5. You get to buy at 40 and sell at 45.
Okay, so you're 2 for 2 so far. Let's see if you can make it 3 for 3. So now let's say that the stock is 34 and the strike is 44. And we're looking at a call option. Is the call option in the money, at the money, or out of the money?
It's out of the money, but if anybody would like to pay me $44 for the stock while it's trading at $34, I am more than happy to sell it to them. That's that's the right to buy at 44. If you were to exercise that right and I sold the stock to you at 44, I could go into the market and buy it at 34 right now.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you would want to exercise, but also just kind of an illustration as to why you wouldn't want to do it. I typically in the classroom, I usually say, if any of you guys want to do that, I'll trade with you all day long.
Yeah. I like that joke.
If they don't get the joke, then I got to explain it more. All right.
Yep.
Let's do puts, which are confusing. This is where people get tripped up in the classroom.
It is, which is one of the reasons why if you are new to options, there's nothing wrong than putting out here that the put value is the max of the strike minus the stock or zero and writing it out and talking it through every single time. So let's look at and we'll do these ones a little bit more slowly because, again, as you pointed out, puts can be a little more tricky. If the stock is trading at 34 and the strike is 54, And now I'm going to really throw a curveball question at you. Where do you think it came up with the numbers 34 and 54?
I don't know.
Walter Payton
Oh gosh.
and Brian
Yeah.
Urlacher.
And Erlacher. Oh yeah. That's funny.
So, so yeah, I'm a dork. I like the Chicago
Oh
Bears.
my God. I'm just now I'm getting them all.
Yeah,
So I'm getting them. I'm getting them
you
all.
see my
I did.
example up
Yeah.
front. So we're going to say
So
that put is the max of the strike minus the stock or zero, which is the max of 54, which is the strike minus 34 or zero, which becomes the max of 20 or zero, which is $20.
mhm.
Now, our next example, I'm going to put Dr. Rowe on the spot. Where do you think the number 23 came from?
Oh, that's an easy one. LeBron James.
Oh, that was harsh. That is not the right answer.
Michael Jordan.
But I would have taken
Yeah.
some other numbers or some
Uh,
other players. We
yeah.
had, oh, and I'm drawing a blank. Who was the Chicago Cub?
Was Sandberg 23?
Yeah, Sandberg. We had
Okay.
Ryan
Yeah.
Sandberg, right? Um, so, and then Devin Hester.
Yeah.
I would have taken those other two answers, but oh,
Yeah.
God, James, that hurts. And
It could be an all of the above question in the future.
all of the above. So
Yeah.
let's say that.
Which team does this relate to? The Bulls, the Cubs, the Bears, or all of the above? There you go.
So let's say that the stock is trading at 23 and the strike is at 23. Now we're going to say that the put is equal to the max of the strike minus the stock or zero. And in this case, it becomes the max of 23 minus 23 or zero, or the max of zero or zero, which equals zero. Now this next one's a little more tricky for you, Dr. Rowe. Whereas 33 and
Oh,
23.
that's Pippen.
Yeah, that's Pippin.
Yeah, Pippen. You know, Pippen was an Arkansas boy, and I grew up across the river, and I knew his agent.
Okay.
We'll just leave it that. I'm very familiar with him in a business standpoint as well as professional. So Pippen actually popped out to me quicker than the Bear numbers once I started
Okay.
looking through.
So let's say that the stock is trading at 33 and the strike is at 23. So the put again is the max of the strike minus the stock or zero, which in this case becomes the max of 23 minus 33 or zero, which then becomes the max of negative 10 or zero, and zero is greater than negative 10. So this is out of the money and we're going to cap this at zero. I also want to make, and this is something we haven't really discussed, we're not really talking about whether or not the option is long or short. Moneyness
No.
doesn't change whether or not we're long or short the option. So you can have if you are short a call option, it can be in the money even though you have a loss. So again, that's where the economic value is. Dr. Rowe, I feel you want to say something.
Well, so if you've got a put option and you're short it, um, it's more of it's still the option is still in the money, but I like to say it's in the money in a negative way for you.
I
Yeah,
like that.
it's or bad in the money, or I try to use very basic terms around that one. So in the way that I would approach that when I say, okay, you fully understand what in the money is now, right? So is in the money a good thing or a bad thing? And I've worked with somebody that always liked to ask yes no questions that the real answer was it depends. He felt like
Right.
struggling with that was a learning experience, and so if if you're shorting in the if you're shorting in the money option, it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. Because you sold something. Let's say you sold that 54 that 54 strike put. Let's say you sold it for $5 and now it's $20 in the money. Well, it's in the money, but for lack of and I don't think there's a good technical term for it, that is bad in the money for you because you're shorted. It's just like selling short a stock at $5 and it's gone up to 20.
Right.
That's a $15 loss. So yeah,
And do we like loss?
you want, and out of the money is good for you if you're an option seller. That's your goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're collecting the time value.
Yeah. Yep.
Which translates to our next point. So when we think about our call value, we have just been focusing on the intrinsic or economic value of our call option or our put option. But that's not the entire price. There's also an extrinsic value. So we can think then of the call value as the max of the stock minus the strike or zero plus this extrinsic value. But we can also call that extrinsic value time value. So there is this premium that you're paying on top of the intrinsic value. So if you're looking at a call option and it's in the money, you're going to initially pay up front, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dr. Rowe, but you're going to pay that intrinsic value up front plus the time value if it's a deep in the money. And that's one of the reasons why when we're talking previously, we were talking about how out of the money options are more attractive because you're not paying for that intrinsic value. So it's a cheaper upfront cost. Did I do that okay?
That's perfect. No, that's perfect.
Okay, good.
That was absolutely perfect. So, and I love that you flipped out the intrinsic value with the words time value because they're used interchangeably, but I think time value, especially for people that are learning about options and they're learning about time decay, that it's very important to hear it referred to that way.
Well, and it's funny, in most academic books, we don't talk about time decay.
Nope.
We jump right to expiration. And so there's a lot that's actually missed. And that's
Yeah.
where a lot of how traders actually make money is through that time decay.
Yeah.
So again, our put options is going to be that intrinsic plus our extrinsic. Now, one of the major differences is our put is going to be the max of the strike minus the stock or zero, not the stock minus the strike. It's the strike minus the stock or zero plus that extrinsic value. This can then be translated to the max of the strike minus the stock plus our time value, that premium that we are paying for that option. And with that, if you would like to reach out to us, our email is academicmarketinsights@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and hit subscribe. And we are launching or launched a new website called Academic Market Insights. I hope you see this theme. And with that, we appreciate you joining us and staying with us to the end. If you have constructive criticism or feedback, we are very open to it. Please leave a comment. If you'd like to see other topics, if you'd like us to expand something or have deeper thoughts about something, please include it in the comments. Thank you.